let's start this. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm glad we did get a couple people come to our little session here. So today I'm going to be presenting on this idea, this concept of employability skills and how they can help you kind of keep the job, get promoted in the job. So we're going to be talking about this idea of employability skills. If at any point in this session you have any questions, Hennessy will be taking those. If you would like to unmute yourself and ask a question, you can do so as well. And that's basically what we're looking at today. Before we begin, again, this is just another quick reminder. If you are doing this workshop, attending for credit in any class from an instructor, please let us know via chat your full name and the instructor, their full name. So not just, Professor Sanchez. Well, there might be more than one. Definitely, hopefully, at least maybe the class, if it's a Counseling 20 class, whatever class it is, and their last name would be awesome, along with your name, of course. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give you a breakdown of what our agenda during our time together will be. This should be slightly less or maximum an hour. So we're looking at maybe an end time around 4:20, 4:30. And I encourage you to, again, participate. I might throw out some questions. Please, if you have a microphone, just unmute yourself to some of those questions. And again, the agenda is going to look like, what are employability skills? So we're going to look at the definition. Why are they so important? What are the top ranked employability skills that most employers are looking for this year? It might change over time. I think maybe every 5 years, different skills might rise and others might kind of go below. But especially in 2021, what are these recruiters looking for, these hiring managers? And then what the different ways that you can improve on these skills, and then when you can show these off. So all those opportunities that you have before you're hired, when you can kind of really display these skills. And then we'll have more time for questions. So what are these skills? What are these employability skills? I know that over the course of time, especially in career development, we talk about motivated skills. We talk about strengths. We talk about technical skills, all these different skills. But for the purpose of today, I might be using the phrase soft skills as well, because employability skills are like soft skills. And these are the highest desired skills as stated by hiring managers. And we're going to see this in a couple slides. So what the hiring manager puts on their priority list that employees should have. They are valuable in almost all jobs. So they are like a transferable skill, but the highest transferable skill you could possibly have. They're definitely harder to teach than technical skills. So this is how you use XYZ machine. Let's say, copier, a photocopier, or any other machine. It's a lot harder to teach these things as easy as a technical skill, basically. Here's how to learn Word. Okay. These skills are things that go even beyond your resume. So sometimes people can see them over your time working with them, over your time working for them. And they're always evolving. It's not like, okay, I've earned the gold star in this skill, I'm going to stop now. You're always building upon them. It's kind of like a lifelong learning skill. So, you might be good at it, but you're still getting better as long as you keep using them, really. Okay, so why do you think, maybe by unmuting yourself so I can hear your wonderful voices, why do you think employability skills are so important? Why do you think so many of these hiring managers want them? And you can let us know in the chat or by unmuting yourself.
to show that you have a talent. They see that, like, hey, I like that, and come on board to my team.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. Yeah. So, and we're going to talk, like I said, a little bit more about these opportunities when they can see these skills exhibited, where they'll say, I really noticed that about this person. I do want to bring them on my team.
I
What's next?
think can I say something?
Yeah, please.
I think it's also because they can see our potential. So what else can we do
Yeah.
beyond what they are expecting from us?
Thank you so much, Julie Beth. Yeah, so potential. This could mean even more opportunities for wherever you're working. And we are going to talk about this idea of maybe even growing within the company. So awesome responses so far. Anything else? This is awesome. Any other thoughts?
I think it's just so that their company can run smoothly, so that they know that all of their employees like are capable of doing what their job like is there for, basically. Like, to know that they can rely on their workers to complete the tasks that they're given without having to worry about them, or like, oh, is this person doing it correctly? Like, do I have to watch over them the whole time? Like, it's taking off stress and like letting the job run smoothly.
That's awesome. Thank you, Hennessy. It's really at the end of the day, everything that you just said builds a sense of trust in the employee. So knowing that at the end of the day, things are going to get done, knowing that they have certain skills, and we're going to talk about these. I'm smiling because I'm really excited because everything that everyone said is absolutely on point. And that's why a lot of these hiring managers are looking so specifically for these skills. So these, you have technical skills, again, things you might learn in school, things you might learn on the job. And then you have your education. So your degrees, your classes, those things will help you get your foot in the door and get hired. But it's these particular employability skills that will allow you to get promoted and really develop within the company, take on more leadership if you like that type of role, or be in charge of certain projects. 94% of recruiting professionals believe an employee with stronger soft skills, or these employability skills, has a better chance of being promoted to a leadership position than an employee with more years of experience but weaker soft skills. So again, if you have these soft skills, a lot of employers will want that for a promotion rather than people that have weaker employability skills, but maybe they've been there for a long time. So again, that's really important. And then more than 1/3 of recruiting professionals believe job candidates' soft skills have gotten worse from 2012 to 2017. So a lot of these recruiting professionals, they're looking at people's interviewing, right? And they're seeing that the soft skills that they want to see, these employability skills, they're hard to come by. They have ideas and expectations of what they want to see when hiring. And a lot of times, schools not teaching these types of employability skills. So it's something that we need to work on maybe outside of the classroom sometimes. So we're going to look into the top 10 ranked skills that employers want this year. And this is according to, they asked 10 Forbes Human Resource Council members. They said, all right, HR council members, what do you want to see in 2021? And they all responded with the following. So I'll go ahead and list these top employability skills, and then along with a little bit more specifics as to what do they even mean by that. So here are the first three. So the first one is growth mindset. And this is so important because some individuals might have what's called fixed mindset. So if they're given a task or a challenge, they start it and it's not going anywhere, it's not progressing, you're not finding a solution. And then they say, oh, I give up. That's the end of it. That's more of a fixed mindset. But individuals with growth mindset, they have this idea that they're open to challenges, they're open to making mistakes. They want to learn, they get excited to keep trying. So those individuals that don't just give up after the first 1, 2, 3 fails, those that keep trying, that's a really, really helpful skill. And that's not something that you could just learn. It's almost like a mindset that you have to change and work on. And that's completely fine. As long as you know where you're at on that kind of spectrum of growth mindset or fixed mindset, kind of see where you're at. The second skill is continuous learning. So people who might take a course or extra, maybe even after you've received your degrees, your certificates, that constant learning or being informed, maybe taking some online classes, anything that you can kind of get a little bit more experience, volunteering, interning. The Career Services Center can help you kind of look for those opportunities and apply to those, but always kind of, I mean, all of us are lifelong learners. I'm here to learn from you, you from me. We all contribute and we all have different skill sets and different strengths. So just this idea of always wanting to learn. The third thing is critical thinking. So again, I can't just say, okay, if you go to this class for 1 hour, you can start thinking critically. This is a skill that you kind of need to build on. Sometimes classes can be helpful, but just actively seeking challenges or maybe some problems to kind of figure out and plan and craft potential solutions. All of that's going to be helpful. And then presenting that. So, I mean, we all know life happens, right? So there's going to be emergencies that come up. There's going to be things out of our control like COVID. And it's this idea of, okay, how am I going to maybe take a class, get internet, get a computer, get access to maybe food, shelter, housing. It's all these different basic needs. So again, critical thinking. And this one in particular, 62% of recruiting professionals value problem solving most in a candidate. And out of all the ones we're going to cover today, 62% critical thinking or problem solving is like the highest skill that they really like to see. If anyone has any questions about these, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. I don't want to just fast forward through everything. I want it to sink in. But I think you should be able to see that this is not something that, you can learn in an hour, any of these. All right. So the next thing we have here is survival skills. So number 4, and individuals who might either have faced a lot of challenges and still accomplished a lot throughout maybe their academic journey or their life journey, whatever it is. Some individuals have had to survive a lot more than others. I'm just thinking of especially ill family or people who pass away unexpected or too early. Again, life does happen. And so having this ability to survive and thrive is another skill that is in high demand as well. These people are often defined as having grit. So no matter what happens, at the end of the day, they're going to kind of power through. They're going to find a way, again, with problem solving. You can kind of see some of these do overlap. They will know how to navigate those barriers and still come out like successful on top. So survival skills. Number 5 is resiliency and curiosity. So it's kind of similar to that, where we have individuals who no matter what challenges, they still come out on top. And then we have curiosity. So a lot of companies like it when individuals have this kind of curiosity for possibilities, curiosity for life, maybe wondering, can we do something differently or more innovative? Or is there maybe a small change we can make that can help us? So that's always helpful rather than maybe always being told, this is how it works, ABC. Having that curiosity to say, what if we can take out B and then just jump, straight from A to C quicker and more efficiently and whatever, their goals are. But kind of challenging maybe like that status quo on the way things are done. The sixth thing is flexibility. So being comfortable with and adapting to change. This idea of, especially with COVID, a lot of us were, shifting of, okay, where do we go? Where can we stay? How are we going to do things? So I know that a lot of companies are facing the same challenge of, okay, are these frontline workers that, we have to manage? Can they work from home? Is it hybrid? What does it look like? So having individuals who are flexible and open and willing to kind of change and shift, again, growth mindset, shift what is the common way things are done is another very high demand skill. And 49% of recruiting professionals value this adaptability, this willingness and openness to change most in a candidate. Then we have number 7, and this is dedication. So again, when we think about grit and determination and resiliency, dedication. So no matter what happens, those who are consistently showing up, those who are loyal to the goal, to the cause of whatever, the field is pursuing, even when it's difficult, that does speak volumes. So being open, not kind of just giving up and shutting down and saying, oh, there's a snag in the road, I'm just going to go somewhere else. This dedication is something, another reason for this too is a lot of times companies do invest a lot of time and money to maybe train employees on maybe some of those technical skills or customer service. And by having this high turnover rate, by having them leave all the time, it's like, oh no, like they're not really dedicated. And then that's just more training and more money and more resources into getting new people coming on board. So it is good to have a group of individuals, a team who do have this dedication. And then number 8 is having a coaching mindset. So this willingness to encourage and aid others. When you are able to successfully coach, you can teach, you know how to effectively communicate, you listen, you help kind of come alongside someone and maybe mentor or tutor them. And so having this ability to connect with others, to teach them and train them, that's something else that's very attractive because you're giving back and you're helping the company grow on a whole other level that maybe you don't have to. So this coaching mindset is helpful, and 31% of recruiting professionals value this collaboration idea most in a candidate. Then we have number 9, which is being comfortable with ambiguity. So when things are not clear, a lot of employers like the fact that maybe you're more open to things not being as clear cut as you would like them to be, versus maybe someone likes a lot of specifics and details. This could be a personality trait, which is completely fine. But if the employee is always demanding specific, I need this, I need to know, I need to understand, what are we doing? It can possibly even get overwhelming to management. So this being comfortable without always having all the answers is something that allows the company or the location, the place to breathe a little bit more. Again, it is kind of another skill where maybe you just go with the flow a little bit more. Can anyone guess the number 10 skill? Let me know by unmuting yourself or letting Hennessy know in the chat.
Christina, someone else had a question.
Yeah, let me know.
They're just asking, so on our part, how should we build our communication and networking skills?
That's good. Okay, so I would say for the communication and networking, and I might actually go into more examples in a bit, but specifically for that, I would try and even with this virtual environment, I know that there's still clubs that are meeting. Connect with people, whether or not they're in your classroom, whether or not they're your instructors, whether or not they're a part of your community, whoever you can, get to know these individuals. And I think that at the end of the day, you'll have a very nice variety of different people in different fields. One example, when I was an undergrad, I had a friend who was a nurse. Nursing. I had a friend who was majoring in pre-law. So now I have a person who is a nurse and a lawyer, and they're my friends. So I would look and reach out to those even not necessarily in your career, but outside as well. Of course, inside your career is important because when you need to start looking for employment, hey, how have you been? When you do network, don't just say, hi, my name is Christina. Nice meeting you. Can we switch business cards? Okay. And then 5 years later, oh, I remember they worked there. I need to call them up. You need to cultivate that like working relationship. So again, it is a little bit easier when it's someone from a club who you've worked with, or you're volunteering, or your job, or a friend of a family. But I say that's how you can build on your network. In terms of communication, I would say actively take on a role of possibly mentoring or tutoring other individuals. Maybe it's a group study session. I think that there's a lot of helpful communication when it comes to teaching others, because when you teach other people, you're not just thinking of how you learn. You're thinking of what are some different ways others learn that are unique from myself. And that's how you continue to build on not only coaching, but communication and effective communication. So crafting, any type of teaching for anyone would be helpful, along with any type of presentations you do in class. So if you're someone who might go into more of a business career, for example, and using charts and using data and relaying your message that way. Because remember, we have auditory learners and visual and more kinesthetic, so more hands-on. How do other people learn, and how can I work on communicating with other people more effectively? Because sometimes at the end of the day, I'm like, I know it's in my brain. How can I get it into other people's brains? Practice. That's basically it. Any other questions? That was good.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Would these skills be helpful if you were like, say, a self-employed person?
Oh, goodness, yes.
Hmm.
I would say yes. So again, they kind of are across any medium. Now, if you're self-employed, you're going to be the one determining which ones are most important to you, how can you practice them, and which ones will benefit, like, let's say if you have clients. So if I'm a graphic designer, of course, I'll kind of go back to what we were looking at. If I'm a graphic designer, flexibility, curiosity, and then obviously the continuous learning, what's up to date, what are some trends, what are some new software, growth mindset, again, something that no matter what, all of careers we're thinking about is helpful, along especially with critical thinking. If you have clients and they're trying to work with you and you're trying to work with them, critical thinking to solve whatever issues or problems they have, along with that communication. So I hope that answered that.
Yeah, very good.
Anyone else? Any other strong questions? Yeah, like I said, these are things that can definitely go across many different career fields. even if you are working for yourself. Okay, back to number 10. Can anyone guess what the number 10 skill was? I will give you a clue. Think these are applicable in 2021.
Is it social media?
Ooh, super close. But yeah, this would be a part of that. So I'll go ahead and say thriving in a virtual environment. So a little subset is definitely social media. So being able to stay visible in a virtual world. So with those number, that subset of the population who was not able to go back into the office setting and they were working from home, being able to have this visible presence while you're still at home is very strong, rather than not communicating with people, not responding to people. Even if it's on Teams, like there is a lot of different software, whether or not it's chatting, whether or not it's visual or on the phone, so that people know, even though they're at home, they're still reliable, dependable, on point, keeping up to date with things. So that's one big thing. And then being open to collaborating across different methods of communication. I'm sure that there's a lot of new platforms that people had to learn. I know a lot of instructors all of a sudden had to start recording lectures and posting things on maybe YouTube. So again, like this ability to still do what they can to assist and aid students or whoever in this virtual environment. And being responsive, I said, and really just continuing to promote the whole team's success. So being a strong member of that team that, you're a part of. So those are the top 10. Now, any questions before I keep moving along? And again, you can kind of see how they can definitely weave in to one another and complement one another. Okay, so now we've talked a little bit about what these skills are. What are some ways that you can think of that maybe I haven't mentioned to improve on some of these skills? So as you think, I'll go ahead and hydrate myself. So what are some possible ways to work on collaboration or leadership, training others?
I feel like volunteering at places can
Big
like
time.
help with group work as well as maybe leading things, because you never know like what can be asked from you.
Yes, thank you for that. So definitely volunteering. I think the more practice and experience, especially with like interpersonal communication, I know that emotional intelligence is kind of like a buzzword too. So really working with other people, I think, is an extremely strong skill. So volunteering or, working in teamwork is part of a group. Anyone else?
Maybe reading books on understanding public speaking and human emotion.
Awesome. Definitely. So also learning like maybe the more nitty gritty on the topic that does go with a lifelong learner as well, gathering information, putting that information into practice, into play. Maybe after you read something, you bounce an idea off someone and they say, well, I do it this way and I find it successful. So absolutely seeing what works for you for sure. All right, so these are just some of the many ways that you can work on some of these skills. For problem solving, read a problem solving book or take a course. I believe that critical thinking is offered, and I believe that's under philosophy, if I'm not mistaken. I remember taking that as an undergrad. Love that class. Practice analyzing facts and figures. looking at different challenges, creating backup plans. So, I mean, maybe it's really thinking about, well, what's a plan B if this doesn't work out? How am I going to do this? Maybe it's budgeting time or money or anything like that. Start brainstorming and thinking just for practice. Maybe someone else has, a concern too, and then you come alongside them and say, okay, what's your plan? Where are the loopholes? What can we do? So problem solving, communication and interpersonal skills, right? All this writing that you're doing in school is another great way, even though it might be dreadful for some of us. It's a really, really good way to start effectively communicating your thoughts, to organizing your thoughts. If at any point in your career you need to deliver information, there's nothing like having a clear, concise, and organized presentation, one where people will understand you, where you start hopefully having them think a little bit more, getting those neurons moving in their brain, and then really kind of learning how others also complete their work during collaboration. So when you're working with someone and you might ask, well, how do you kind of do this task? How do you organize it? What are some milestones, or what are some ways that you've improved your process in doing something? Again, kind of understanding how others are, how they work, how they learn, and then even taking that and mentoring other people along the way. The third one is self-motivation. And I know that, thank you, Hennessy, for mentioning taking on volunteer opportunities or an internship, apply for leadership roles. Sometimes it can be scary, and especially maybe if you're more reserved or if you're an introvert, being around larger groups might take energy, but challenging yourself in that way. And at the end of the day, at the end of maybe the semester or the term, you did something impactful. So again, that should lead to self-motivation. But these are just a couple things. I'm sure that you can all continue this long list of check marks for these. Are there any other ways that maybe someone can work on either problem solving, communication, interpersonal skills, or self-motivation that you can think of, or that you've even done?
Maybe you can find a mentor.
Oh, that's very good. I think everyone should have a mentor, and maybe even a mentor for different aspects or different roles in their life. Absolutely, I think a mentor will help with all three of these areas, honestly. And just having maybe like a check-in time, maybe once a month, etc. But yeah, that's a really, really good idea. And I would highly recommend everyone have one in their life. Thank you for sharing that.
And I'm sorry, how did you get a mentor?
You can get a mentor in many different ways. So if, for instance, you want more of, oh goodness, we're all learning. So education-wise, you can reach out to maybe a club member or an instructor, or if there's a teaching assistant or someone in on, when kind of things are back to normal, that's educationally, academically. You can have someone at work who maybe you turn to answer questions, to help you learn, to give you ideas. You could even have more of like even a life mentor. So if for some reason you're in a certain predicament in your life and you need someone who gives you information, feedback, support, whatever that is in the role that you play, that could be another mentor. So there's a lot of different mentors. But people that you meet along the way that you trust, that are positive, and that you see maybe their growth, their wisdom, and you turn towards them and you learn from them.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I'll keep moving forward, but I do like this dialogue for sure. It is not a monologue. So some ways, again, to improve on time management. have a planner, have maybe a Google Calendar, depending on if you're more tangible or if you are a digital person. Balancing school, work, familial obligations successfully. And when you're tired, listen to yourself and try and unplug if possible. Because that could lead to burnout. It could lead to losing motivation. It could lead to anxiety and a whole other different array if you don't give your mind and your body that rest that it needs. Some people are like, there's no way I can do that. But it's really important. So hopefully you can balance some gaps in your schedule. And then when you do have your checklist, some people like to do the larger tasks first and then the smaller tasks. What I would say is at least whatever you're doing in your day, make sure that you get up, stretch, or you do take that break. Instead of, just sitting too much in front of the computer, it's important that we do kind of prioritize ourselves as well. I can talk a lot more about motivation, but I'm going to keep moving on to organization next. And that is the skill that really people can use, especially when you're planning an event. That's one example again. So planning an event from beginning to finish. You're looking at the place, you're looking at the weather, you're looking at the budget, you're looking at people involved. And there's so many things you have to coordinate. You might have to call vendors and think about the food and the dietary restrictions and accessibility. Like there's a whole bunch of different things involved when you organize an event, for example. There's a whole, with an event, or anything really, even your career journey, your career path. What am I going to do this month, next month? What skills am I going to build on, etc. So just being organized. And then the next thing is numbers and data. So creating graphs and charts to make that point that does overlap a little bit with that communication we were talking about earlier, and then gathering that information and making sense of it. So a lot of times individuals might like to be organized and work with data and numbers, but the other people who don't, they might look at that information and say, well, what am I going to do with this? So it takes a certain skill to be able to transform all of that raw data into a meaningful message, into this is where we need to go, this is what we need to do, these are the pros that we have, our advantages, doing a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, utilizing all that for a bigger and better purpose. That is another skill that people look for, hiring managers look for. Any questions about any of these, or even examples of ways that you can think or that you have implemented this skill development? Remember, when you are organized, let's say, it doesn't just end there. You're still developing more efficient and effective ways to be organized over time. So it's not just check, done. So other examples that you can think of.
What's another way that you can say to help improve like time management and other such skills like that related to how to better utilize your time more wisely?
So for me, personally, there's of course other methods, but I think it's helpful to have some type of hourly, if you're willing to do that, maybe like an hourly schedule, something if you like colors, you can color code it, but it's helpful to see first, how do I spend my time? I teach Counseling 12. Identify how you spend your time. Are there larger gaps of being extremely unproductive, maybe excessive gaps of being unproductive where you can slot something else in there? So see how you spend your time. After you do that, this is what I did. I ate here, I had class here, went to work, etc. Then the following week, look back and say, how did I spend my time? What percentage of time was I doing XYZ? You'll get an idea. A lot of students say, I didn't realize how much time I played games, how much time I did homework, how much time I worked. You'll see kind of how you spend your time. And based on that, you'll then say, okay, do I want to allocate my time differently? If so, how? Let me plan for the next week. So, you could say from 9 to 10, instead of doing this, I want to try and do this. Be kind to yourself, be flexible with yourself. But I think that would be very helpful, especially if you have assignments that are due. There's nothing like having a calendar, a monthly calendar with deadlines and due dates. And I think starting early can be helpful. But some people don't like to start early, and that's okay. If they are like, I love the pressure of working last minute, it gives me like that adrenaline to stay awake, pull an all-nighter. That was me in undergraduate. That was me in the past. So that's what I would say to that. But I would say, try calendar first. And there's actually free calendar downloads as well. If you want to type your name in the chat, I'm more than happy to email you, anyone who wants like a free editable calendar that you can either type in or you can print. I have a PDF and I have an Excel spreadsheet. Just let us know in the chat, just say calendar, please, and type your email, and I'm happy to send that your way.
Sounds good.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to keep moving along here. So now we're thinking of, okay, let's say I feel very strong in some of these skills. When can I show these off? When can I let, the employer or a client, for those who are self-employed, when can I let the client know you're in good hands, you can trust me, these are the skills I have? And some of these are during the phone interview. If there is a phone interview, I think it was like 66% of hiring managers rely on phone interviews to kind of see what skills you might have. We know when we listen to people or talk to people, we could start sensing what kind of skills they might have, whether or not it's communication or leadership. Whoa, look at that. Or maybe it's this idea of thinking of the impossible, but somehow making it doable. There are so many. So this dialogue during the phone interview, they may ask the easiest, simplest questions, but if you're warm about them, if you're genuine, if you're flexible, if you're okay with ambiguity, let's say, they'll notice that right away. And if you are an independent contractor, your client will sense that immediately. If there are contracts that are specific, maybe you have meetings of, okay, these are some of our goals together. How can we adjust things? What's your schedule look like to catch up? They'll know, immediately. Sometimes they check with your references. So then they kind of say, what was it like working with the individual? Trying to think of questions that I've received when people put me down. It was pretty much more of questions like behavioral questions. What would you say about this person? Basically open-ended. And then conducting a video interview. So, we kind of get more into the getting into the door. The video interview will allow them to, again, see maybe some verbal, nonverbal, and looking at different work samples. This is especially important to our design field. So those who have portfolios, and then again, looking at social media pages. I know social media was mentioned. So how do people communicate? What do they post? What have they done? Any projects? Has anyone written a book? Like, who knows? But that's, again, kind of what they look like. Any questions about showing these off, ways that these might be seen? I think hopefully we've all worked with really helpful people in our field or in class or wherever we're at in life, and you feel those vibes sometimes and you say, wow, that person's really good at XYZ. And that it wasn't because they did one small thing. And that was the end of it. It's constantly using these skills.
I have
Oh,
a question.
yes, please.
So, I know sometimes in an interview, like we can get nervous. Does that like in a way like ruin our chances or maybe lower our chances of landing a job?
I'm so glad you asked that. I love talking about interviewing. So everyone, I want to say everyone, most people are nervous during an interview. So that is not something that's unseen. I think the biggest thing you can do for yourself to help with your nerves is, I'm thinking of three. One, meet with a career counselor, make an appointment. We could do a mock interview with you. We will tell you the strategies, the tips, the tricks, the ins and outs, the questions they ask so that you can best prepare and cater your responses to that interview. Meet with a career counselor. Two, know the job description, know the place, know about the company, do your research. And three, the biggest thing, kind of culminating in all of these, the mock interview with the career counselor, your research, take enough time to practice, write down the bullet points of the things you want them to know, the most important things, and that should help alleviate some of the stress the day of. Deep breaths, slow, deep breaths. But that's pretty much it. That the deep breaths should lower your heart rate as well, before you walk in and start.
I have a question.
Mhm.
What is that thing that we definitely shouldn't do on an interview? Like,
Yeah,
don't do
so
that.
a couple things that would come to my mind are, don't ask, will you pay for my education? Will I get overtime? Do I get healthcare benefits? All of those things are a conversation after you're given the offer, not before. So I know at the end of the interview, they say, do you have any questions for us? Don't ask about what am I going to get from this? Always keep your answer. How can I best contribute? Always keep your responses focused on them, on what they want, on their mission, values, goals. That's what you want to craft your interview to. Other things that I would not do not answer your phone. Do not, put your phone away. Keep it on silent. That's a big no-no. Don't read off, your notes. Like, it would be very awkward if they asked you a question and then all of a sudden you're reading off your piece of paper. That's obvious. What else do I have to say on no-nos? Is there any specific questions or things you want to run by me? Because I'm more than happy to help.
No, I am asking because I yesterday I quit my current job, so
Okay.
I am gonna start looking for a new job. So I'm gonna.
Schedule an appointment with us. Definitely. As long as you're a student, you can meet with anyone in our team via phone or via Zoom. I think the next slide is actually on that. So
Sorry, but I'll also include information about our offices, like our hours, our email, and our phone number in the chat.
yes. So here, thank you so much for that. Perfect. Those are directions as well. If you are looking to look for a job, apply for a job, work on a cover letter, work on your resume, we are here to help you with that. So, I mean, we're not going to
Thank
say,
you. Thank
here's
you
a
very
job.
much.
We'll give you those tools. We'll do our best. We'll
Thank
give you those tools. So yeah, just make sure that follow those appointments, the directions in the chat to make the appointment. You can ask for me, you can ask for anyone else. I'm very, very fortunate to work with a very phenomenal team of counselors.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate.
Thank you.
Mm.
So with that being said, again, if you are here to receive class credit, make sure you put your name, full name, your instructor's full name if you have it, and the class just in case. And I am still here for any questions. I wanted to leave a couple minutes for that. anyone have any questions? Let us know in the chat.
There aren't any in the chat.
Okay. So what I'll do is we'll go ahead and stop recording. Again, I'll give another like minute for any other questions, and then